Meal planning is a great way to save you time and money, but when you don't know where to begin, it can quickly become overwhelming. In this episode, we'll discuss the basics of meal planning and provide you with simple steps to get you started. Armed with the right information, you'll be ready to plan delicious, nutritious meals with ease. Let's get growing. Hello, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast, the show that talks about growing a garden, a homestead, a healthy family, and most importantly, growing closer to God. I'm your host, Crystal Media, owner of the Red Ridge Farm Homestead, where our mission is to help women of faith find the courage to grow healthy food for their family while building a closer relationship with our Lord and Savior. If that's you, don't let the world hold you back. Pray, just plant. Hello, fellow growers, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Media, and today in season 13, episode 9, we are going to talk about meal planning, but most importantly, how do you get started when this is something new to you, that you've never done this before and you just want to cut through a lot of the things you can find on the internet and you want just the simplest steps. The simple steps to get you started so that you can start creating delicious food for your family, either from scratch or from home, or just making sure that you are utilizing your harvest. As growers, we have a harvest, but it's still easy to fall back into the same old of, well, I always buy this at the grocery store and I always buy this. And you sometimes forget about the green beans that you preserved this year down in the freezer. And meal planning should start, as a grower especially, should start with your harvest. That's one small tip that I have for you. But let's dive into about 4 ideas that can really help you get started. Now, if you want to know exactly about the 5 steps to meal planning in a purposeful kitchen, I have a separate episode all about that. It's going to really dive into the exact steps that you're going to take. But today we're just going to start talking about the things that you need to do before you really dive into meal planning. The things you need to consider, the ideas, the thoughts that you might be having, so that you can, when you sit down to make your first meal plan, you have a beginning. Now, if you've been following along for a while here at the Pray Just Plant podcast, then you know that I'm going to talk about the purposeful growing journey. This episode is part of the Purposeful Kitchen part of that journey. What is the Purposeful Growing Journey? Well, the Purposeful Growing Journey is where you as a grower move through several stages to create a purposeful life. Now, I've looked at my own journey, several other journeys that I have helped nurture, and just people around me in this homesteading venture, and there is about 6 stages. There's this just grow stage where you are learning and figuring out if this is something for you. You're setting goals. You are learning about homesteading and wanting to think about changing your mindset and changing your plan to maybe incorporate growing into your lifestyle. The next is the purposeful kitchen, which we're talking about today, which is the perfect place to start growing. It can happen. You can start creating and providing delicious, nutrient-dense food for your family from your kitchen without growing a single thing. It's just the way you change your mindset, the way you shop, the way you purchase your products. The next is the purposeful home. The center of the homestead is the home, and the center of the home is the kitchen. So why not be the next place after the kitchen, be the home? The purposeful home stage is where you're learning how to manage things, like maybe manage a budget or manage your home so that you do have time to get out into the garden and grow, which takes us to the next stage, which is the purposeful garden, where you're growing a garden. Here on the podcast, I teach you about permaculture in the garden, your soil health, and things that you can grow in your garden to create delicious meals. The next is Purposeful Homestead. This is where you're adding animals to your homestead. Here I teach you about permaculture principles in designing your homestead, permaculture in how you can connect with permaculture so that you can grow more even on a small piece of land and create connections between your garden and your homestead. Then last is the purposeful life. This is where you're bringing it all together. Even though I've been growing for 20 plus years, I still go back and learn new things in the just grow stage. I'm learning new things on goals just this year. I go back to the purposeful kitchen, purposeful home, the purposeful home homestead, the Purposeful garden, and expand on those ideas. And maybe also another step in this stage is that you want to create a business from your homestead. That's one thing that I'm doing here at the Red Ridge Farm. So those are the 6 stages of the Purposeful growing journey. To learn more about those and to figure out where you're at in those stages, I will put the link down in the show notes and in the description below so that you can go to a page that I designed that walks you through each of the guidelines that I have for each of those stages so that you can, one, find the stage that you are currently in, and then also find resources that I have developed to help you in each of those stages. So let's get back to the meal planning. How to start meal planning when you don't know where to begin. And again, we're talking about not necessarily the steps to meal planning, but the ideas behind it, the foundation that you need so that when you sit down and go through the steps of meal planning, you know where to begin. So the first part is that meal planning starts with who you are. A lot of times we go to Google. I call Google Mr. Google Pants because sometimes he's a little smarty pants. But we go to Mr. Google Pants and we type in meal planning and we get overwhelmed with how this person's doing it and how this person's doing it and the list. They're like, just make a list of this and just, I'll even give you the recipes and I'll show you how to do it. And sometimes you can get into that and that works really great. But sometimes I know for my family, when I get into looking at someone else providing a meal plan for me or learning about the way other people do meal plans, is that I say, well, those recipes just don't fit what my family eat. And those recipes don't fit with what I grow. And or that foundation that she's using doesn't really fit with my lifestyle. Or what I found over here doesn't fit with how busy I am. I need meals that are fast and quick or slow cooker meals. Before you start diving into a meal plan, you need to start with who you are. What kind of meals are you looking for? Are you a busy person? Do you have a lot of engagements that you are doing on weeknights that you want to think about? Are you wanting to eat more from scratch? Are you wanting to eat organic? Are you wanting to change your eating habits to less junk food and more nutrient-dense foods? Are you trying to, I'm kind of running out of ideas here, but everyone is an individual. I believe the same thing goes with growing your own food and starting a homestead or anything. You have to start with who you are, who God made you, and the goals that you're trying to achieve. Inside my planner that I developed for meal planning, the first thing that I ask you to do is to define your goals, because goals are so important. I have you define goals for every month. I currently make goals for my kitchen every month in either learning a new recipe, or I go down to my freezer and I'm like, oh man, we've got so many green beans. We need to utilize these up. What can I do to cook more green beans that'll be tasty? Maybe I need to do some new recipes, or I want to learn some new soups. It's winter, it's February. I want to learn soup recipes. Knowing who you are and knowing where you are starting, number one, maybe you're learning to cook from scratch. Maybe this is something that you want to start doing. And if you jump into a meal plan that is all cooking from scratch and you're just starting to learn how to cook from scratch, it's going to be way overwhelming for you. So you need to start with a meal plan that fits you. Or better yet, you need to start with learning about who you are in the kitchen, what goals you want to accomplish, which kind of goes into our next topic, is start with what you know. Because if you start with something you don't know, if you jump out of your comfort zone too quickly, you're going to say, oh, it's the meal plan's fault, but it's not. It's just simply that you just don't know those things yet. So let me re-explain that in my cooking from scratch example that I was trying to give. Say that your goal is that you want to start cooking from scratch. That's an amazing goal, but it's going to take time. And if you also have on your list of the things you wrote down about defining who you are, and you write down that you're a very busy person, that your kids have lots of activities after school, and that you are also trying to grow a garden and also trying to do this, and you're being pulled in many different ways, jumping into a meal plan that is all about cooking from scratch is going to be hard, and it's become overwhelming. And like I said before, you're going to blame the meal plan. But instead, maybe you decide that you're only going to cook 2 meals or 1 meal a week from scratch, and it's going to be a new meal. So you need to be sure that you are, when you get into the meal planning stage, you're taking that goal with you when you go into making that meal plan. You can make a strategy to help you learn from scratch while also cooking good food for your family. So just to recap both of those, and I want to start with what you know and just a little bit more. You need to start with who you are. And in that, you are thinking about your goals that you want to accomplish by meal planning. You're thinking about who you are as a person, your likes and dislikes in the kitchen, your wants in either trying new foods or staying with your basics or staying with your favorites. Just define who you are and also define who your family is. If they are not ready to just jump into eating salad all the time or a bunch of veggies, then that might be a little bit of stressful overturn. So you also need to look at who your family is too. What do they like to eat? What do they dislike to eat? What are some ways that you could take what they like to eat and change it into something healthy, or so much more there? And the next part, start with what you know. You know who you are in the kitchen. Don't jump into a meal plan that is going to be things that you don't know how to do yet, or foods that you don't know, or recipes that you don't know, where all of it is that. Because it's going to be overwhelming and it's going to set you back because you're going to feel overwhelmed and you're going to procrastinate about going and cooking those meals because it's going to be really easy to make excuses because those things just don't fit who you are and what you know and your skills that you have. So those are two things there. The next thing is you need to start in your pantry. Whenever you are meal planning or thinking about meal planning and you go to Mr. Google Plants and they're asking for all these different ingredients and things that you just don't normally cook with, that again can be overwhelming. So my suggestion to you is to start in your pantry. Go to your pantry and say, what do I already have? What are some meals that I can already cook right here because I already have all the ingredients that I can just add to my meal plan, and write the recipes down and then start meal planning. Meal planning doesn't have to be as egregious as it looks like on the internet. It doesn't have to be all these fancy recipes. A meal plan is just simply you stating ahead of time what you're going to cook either each night or for the week. And then you follow through with it. Because what it's doing is it's going to help you with the decision fatigue that happens at 5 p.m. You're standing again in front of your pantry. You see the ingredients there that you already know can make a good meal, but you don't feel like that tonight. Or you're running late on time and you didn't get out the chicken and now you can't cook that. So what meal planning does is it just says, okay, Crystal, I'm making such and such on Monday morning, you go and get the stuff out of the freezer, or you set everything out on the counter that you're going to need and you know you have everything. So when Monday evening comes around, and I'm talking about just dinner here, but when Monday evening comes around, you're ready to cook. Your meat is defrosted, your food is sitting out on the counter, and all you have to do is cook when you're already tired and you're already exhausted. So meal planning doesn't have to be a huge elaborate thing. It can still be simply you starting in your pantry, writing down some recipes of the things you already have, which is so important as a grower. As a grower, your goal is going to be to stock up that pantry to last a little while. Teaching yourself how to cook from what's in your pantry and how to go to your pantry and come up with recipes and come up with meals is a huge asset. And it can be added to what you know or a goal that you are trying to achieve. Meal planning doesn't have to be fancy ingredients. It doesn't have to be fancy recipes. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. You need to start, most importantly, with where you are and who you are, what you know, and what's already in your pantry. The things you already know how to cook, and you're just creating a plan so that you can be a couple steps ahead of yourself when it comes to preparing a meal. You know that, okay, I have spaghetti in the cupboard, I have hamburger downstairs, there's the spaghetti sauce, I have everything I need for spaghetti and meatballs tonight. So you get those things out on the thing, and then you're like, oh, wouldn't garlic bread be nice to add to that? Well, I don't have any garlic bread. Okay, well, we're not going to worry about it this time. So then you go over to your grocery list and you write garlic bread on your grocery list. And then the next time you make spaghetti, you have the garlic bread that you thought about. Meal planning doesn't have to be exasperating. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And the last thing I want to leave you with in this episode is that you need to finish with hope. You need to finish with the idea that this is not something that is ingrained in stone. This is something that you can change around. If I do this a lot, I write down 5 recipes that I'm going to make for supper every week. And do I write what day I'm writing them on? No, I don't. I can move them around. But also the idea of finishing with hope means that this is just a trial. A week of meal planning is just a week. It is not something that you need to say, okay, I did horrible during this week. I sucked at meal planning. I didn't even cook all the things on my meal plan. This happened and this happened and this happened and that happened. Life happens. It does. Best laid plans by mice and men are that. Best laid plans. And that's what a meal plan is. So you need to finish with the hope that you are trying to make a plan. You are trying to make it come true. Will it always? No, it won't. But you're going to learn and you're going to grow from a very simple meal plan of 5 recipes because what you're doing is just learning. And the other thing with the Finish with Hope is that when you sit down and you think about who you are and what you know and what you have in the pantry, you can start meal planning with an advantage that when you feel stressed from going to Google Plants and all the options, you can say, no, I have all of these assets already. I have these goals that I can work towards. I have these ideas and things that I know how to do in the kitchen. And that's where I'm going to start. And that gives you hope. That breaks through the overwhelm and gets to the meat of the situation, which is just meal planning for you and you alone and you and your family alone. I do have ideas to help you meal plan, especially in my planner, Planning Beyond the Harvest Planner, which is all about making a meal plan for growers and looking at meal planning from a grower's mindset. And if that's you, then I would love for you to dive into that planner. I'll put the link in the show notes. But also, I have another great resource for you to help you get started with meal planning. And that is the Eat Your Harvest at Every Meal Planning Challenge. I'm going to help you walk through the steps of making a meal plan. I'm going to walk through these ideas of how to start with you, to start with what you know, to start in your pantry and what that looks like, and how you can finish with hope. I want to help you in this journey. I want to take away the overwhelm. I want to give you the simple steps, and not only just give you the simple steps, but walk next to you in a meal planning challenge. This is like an email challenge. I will send you emails for about 5 days, and it'll just walk you through each of the steps and help you create your first meal plan. So I'll put the link to that meal planning challenge down in the show notes below. So finally, I want to just remind you that you are you, and you are who God made you. To start with who you are, start with what you know, start in your pantry, and finish with hope. And join me inside Eat Your Harvest at Every Meal Planning Challenge to take action and learn how to make an amazing meal plan for your family that is structured for your family and your family alone. I want to thank you for joining me here in the Pray Just Plant podcast. If you're new here, I want to welcome you to the Red Ridge Farm Fellowship of Fellow Growers. And as always, don't let the world hold you back. Pray Just Plant. This episode is brought to you by the Eat Your Harvest at Every Meal Planning Challenge. Are you like me and struggle to take those delicious looking jars off your shelves and consume them every night? Are you struggling to take the nutrient-dense food that you grew and get them on your family's plate every night? Are you still resorting to your old meal plan and your old ideas of what to cook for dinner? I want to help you break out of that. I want to help you not only break out of that, but take the stress away from meal planning. I want to show you how you can make a stress-free meal plan and include your harvest too. So join me in the Eat from Your Harvest at Every Meal Planning Challenge. To get signed up, go to the link in the description below. So I hope to see you there.